Hello and welcome. I am very excited. The guys are back. This is Thursday, 6 o'clock, well, quarter past 6. Yes. Uh, as you can see, I'm very delighted. The last 2 weeks we had a little bit of challenges. Let us see what is going to happen tonight. With technology, we can do what we can do. We are not in control. But what I can tell you, we are in control of what we say here on AIL TV because we speak our minds. And you know what? I've been talking to many friends who said that this program actually is needed because when you hear these guys talking, they know what they're talking about. They're talking about the region where they come from, even if they're not in that particular region. Say, for example, a guy from Cameroon, he might have even a very good knowledge about Uganda. You see, we are talking about Africa. That's why I say we are in control. Thank you, guys, and thank you for watching. But I'm always saying that if you have got a question, please fire it. Bring it on. The guys are here to answer all the questions. Enough from me. Anyway, my name is Joseph Otieno Adamson. I have got so many names. Many people call me JJ, Joseph, a man called Jay. But of course, you are not going to be watching me. As I said, I have got a trio here which knows Africa inside out. Of course, our host is David Otto from Stepped In, Step Out. In short, we call it SISO. So, David, what do you have today? You are on.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Joseph Otieno. I'm extremely pleased that we're having this program today. Of course, the past couple of weeks we've had challenges with the internet, but I'm very pleased that we've managed to go through that process, and here we are today to give our viewers the best of what we have on board. Of course, as Mr. Joseph said, you may have some internet challenges, but just bear with us. I think I'm already having one, but I'm sure that we shall resolve that. We want to talk a lot more about the situation which is happening in Mali. But before we do that, I'm sure that it's important for us to recall to our audience that the purpose of this program is for us to get a very good understanding as to how the security situation in Africa impacts on the economic and social development of the region. But also, more importantly, for us to bring you the best guests that we have on board, and I guess we'll be able to give you their expert opinions as to how they see things and how they appreciate the situations that happen in Africa. So I really want to appreciate our guests, but more importantly, I want to appreciate you, the audience. So I think today we'll focus a lot on Mali. And the reason why I want us to focus on Mali is because, as you know, there has been a military coup d'etat in Mali. President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, known locally as IBK, was overthrown by the CNSP, which is the National Committee for Liberation and Salvation of the People of Mali. Now, we want to talk about the way forward, how this junta is going to be able to take over power. Because, one of the discussions I was having with the guests is, there is one thing taking power from, using the military coup, and there's another thing, for you to transfer that power, to a reliable civilian government. So that is the basis of which we're going to talk today. Today I have with me two very special guests, gentlemen that know the region inside and outside. And, they have a great experience on talking about this matter. So welcome today, Mr. Salinana, who is certified anti-terrorism specialist. Also, I've got with me Mr. Alex Akoman, who is also a certified anti-terrorism specialist. Both of them are very much experienced in this area. It's Joseph, is there something we can do about the the network. I think I can constantly hear myself. Before we go forward. Both of them are very much experienced in this area. Yeah, I don't know if that's okay. I think it's a lot more okay now. So let me hear from my guest. While I'm trying to repair the damage which is being caused by. Oh, can you hear me now? Is that okay? Okay. This. How is that now? I just needed to hear from. First of all, let me get to Mr. Salinana. How difficult is it to to take power using the military? I think there is a problem with the voice. I just want to apologize. I just want to apologize.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I can hear you. Um, can you hear me? Right. Good evening, everyone, and it's great to be here again. Um, I think that taking power through military means is quite challenging. It's challenging to the military. It's not something that is easy to do. It's easier in some countries than other countries, but it's a difficult thing to do. But I think what is more difficult is not so much taking the power, but actually managing to put together a government and also succeeding in delivering what you promise. So the military in Mali is facing the same kind of situation like many other uh, um, military juntas before. They have taken over, but they are actually having difficulties putting together a government and also then carrying on to deliver what they promise.
The voice thing is really bad. Uh, I don't know if there's anything we can do about this, but it's very disruptive. It kinds of impacts on your thoughts as well. So thank you for that. Mr. Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can, David.
Okay, can you hear me directly, or you can hear me, still kind of very disruptive manner?
I can hear you directly, but there's also the echo in the background.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let me put this question to you. I'm sure our audience will bear with us. Technology can be very disruptive. Um, how do you think at the moment, the military junta, was having a meeting with the ECOWAS, and the ECOWAS has insisted that they hand over power to a civilian transitional government, and they've given them 18 months to do that. One of the conditions is that the military itself, i.e., the members of the current junta, those who are leading, cannot be part of the transition. Do you think this is something they are willing to accept, considering the fact that they couldn't provide an answer to ECOWAS when they went to Ghana?
Right. Thank you very much, David, for this opportunity, and also for our viewers who are sharing this time with us. Now, I think as discussion continues, we will see a kind of views coming together, because obviously we know where Mali was before the coup, and the military have to make a decision. And the reason why they made the decision is that the civilian government was failing, and even the civil society, the political parties were on the street campaigning, protesting, requiring, asking the former leader to step down because he was failing. Now, the military have to come as a result to resolve the issue, outstanding issue. So there is a need for all the different parties, whether the military, the civilian, the Malian political parties, they need to have a consensus and agree on those who should be leading the transitional government up to the elections. And it can be a military or it can be a civilian, because those who made that decision of taking over the power want to make sure that the transition is successful. If the leader of the transitional government is somebody who is controllable, who can be manipulated from outside, the purpose, the objectives will not be achieved in the country. So I think both all the different parties, whether it's ECOWAS, the African unions, the UN representatives, as well as the Malian, they need to find the right person to be leading the transitional government. Whether that person is a civilian or the military is up to the Malian to decide.
Yeah, but that's a very good point. It's up to the Malians, but I don't think there's going to be some kind of a universal suffrage. Are they going to have elections? Because I read the communique from ECOWAS. It did not mention how the individual who is going to lead the transition will be elected, or how he will be choosing, so to speak. So does it mean, from your opinion, that this is just going to be an appointment? How is that going to work, from your experience?
I think they will have, between the Malian different groups, they'll have to agree and then tell the international community that this is the person we want to lead our transitional government. It shouldn't be coming from whether ECOWAS or African Union or the UN. So it needs, for the respect of the Malian people, it needs to come from the Malian themselves. And I don't think that people should be skeptical about having a military leading the transitional government. We have, now President Nana Akufo-Addo is president of ECOWAS, who is a Ghanaian. If we look in history, Ghana went through difficult times, and it has to be a military man, to come up and basically put the house in order. And it was Jerry Rawlings. So President Rawlings laid down the foundation as a military, and today Ghana is a very peaceful country, is a very interesting country where everything is moving smoothly. So we have to be open-minded and accept that the right person, whether it's a military or a civilian in Mali, leads the transitional government, because the transitional government is just for a short period of time, and it's all the different parties need to contribute to have within the next year or 18 months, as we're discussing.
Yeah, let me come to you, Mr. Sally, because again, I apologize for the echoing. I'm sure that somehow this will be resolved, by some natural technological interference. Let me get to you again. ECOWAS in the beginning had condemned vehemently and did not recognize the military junta. They made it very clear that it was unconstitutional. Of course, it was to overthrow the president, through a military coup. Now, they are ready to sit with the junta, and they are dining on a process of transition. Does this weaken the position of ECOWAS? Especially when ECOWAS proposed a year for a transition period. The military junta said, they needed 3 years. At the end of the day, they ended up with 18 months. And there has been a decision by ECOWAS that the military junta should go back to the barracks as soon as they hand over the transitional government. Do you think this is victory for ECOWAS, or victory for the CNSP?
Yes, I think that there is no victory for either side yet. It's part of the horse trading that happens, and this falls within a very recognized templates. When there is a coup d'etat, regional and international organizations reject the junta, and they will condemn, and then they will make demands. And usually the junta will meet some of the demands, and they will meet in the middle, and then continue putting pressure. But I think that one thing must be said. Following the forum this week or last week of the people or the representatives of the people of Mali, a number of things and resolutions were agreed. And one of the resolutions was about a civilian leading the government. And the military removed that particular resolution and replaced it with a statement that said it can either be a military or a civilian. And the groups have rejected the document that has been published by the military following the forum. And they stated clearly that a number of things that were agreed have been removed, and a number of new things that were not discussed have been introduced into the document. So there is, I must say that it is not just ECOWAS or the United Nations or any other body making these demands. The political movements in Mali are calling for a civilian head of the government. Now, can this junta succeed by flouting the demands of ECOWAS? Is highly unlikely. Like I said here before a few weeks ago, I'm not surprised by any of this. I don't think that these processes take quite like a week to finish, because it's one thing to take power, it's another thing to agree on how to then move forward. I don't think the junta has the power to defy ECOWAS, because Mali relies heavily on international aid, and also there is a lot of insecurity in Mali. Mali is a country that is plagued by war in the north and central. So I think that the junta will try by all means to not openly flout uh, the demands of the of ECOWAS. Also, there are members of ECOWAS that are very powerful, like Nigeria, and the demands and the views of Nigeria within ECOWAS uh, have a very they have a bigger weight than even Ghana and other ECOWAS members.
Okay, let me hold on first. Let me add on to that, for you, because you've mentioned the strength of the ECOWAS, especially when we talk about the fact that ECOWAS is waiving sanctions, a number of sanctions against Mali, and you and I know that Mali is a landlocked country, which means uh, besides the security and the insecurity situations in Mali, it depends a lot on its neighbors. So, do you think where does the pressure come most? The internal pressure by the people saying the military junta is trying to hold on to power, or the external pressure from ECOWAS and the international community? Where would they really care the most, Mr. Nana?
In my view, they will care most about the pressure that is coming from ECOWAS, because the aim of taking over, there is no point for good governance if there is no economy to talk about. So the real issues are economic. You mentioned that Mali is landlocked, but also Mali relies a lot on not only on ECOWAS trade, but on ECOWAS goodwill in order to get a lot of their international aid. So I think they will pay more attention to what ECOWAS is saying than what the the M5 movement is saying. However, they will obviously do this diplomatically. They are not going to openly flout what the forum was saying. An example of that was that there has been a forum where um, representatives of the people met for 3 days and agreed on points, and the military that appointed the rapporteur came out with a report that is not actually what was agreed in that forum. So that's a sign that they they will they are willing to kind of like flout what is happening internally. But I think that they will be very careful with what ECOWAS is saying, and especially what Nigeria is saying, and they will try to meet those conditions, but they don't want to lose their credibility in the eyes of the Malians to say that, well, you are a puppet of ECOWAS. So for an ordinary person, they will say, well, ECOWAS doesn't matter. ECOWAS is an ineffective organization, but in international politics and international economics, unfortunately, it does matter. You need the money, you need the political support, and you don't know what is coming ahead. You can even have a counter coup. So there's a lot of stakes, and the stakes are very high. And I think that ECOWAS wields a lot of power on Mali. Mali doesn't have the kind of economic status that they, like Nigeria, for example, that they can actually dismiss international stakeholders.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nana. I think I just really want to again emphasize to the audience that the network today is quite troublesome, but we shall continue to give you our best. Um, these things happen. It's very difficult when you talk and you can listen to yourself. You can hear your echoes because it's very disruptive. So please just bear with us. Let me get to Mr. Alex. Uh, now, one of the things that we've spoken about is the fact that when this military coup happened, a lot of the regional states, ECOWAS member states, were very worried that this set a bad precedent. And a lot of countries were concerned that their military men, could do the same thing, which the Malians did. When you look at the development in terms of how difficult it is now for these guys to control what they've taken, um, do you think uh, they are setting a bad precedent, and maybe other or anyone who is trying to do the same will be thinking, okay, it's not just about taking power, but it's also about what you do with it once you get it.
Right, thank you, David. You see, when there's a military coup, some militaries just use force to rule, basically by ignoring the rule of the law, and they become dictators. Now, these militaries, from the beginning, they made clear that they have to take action for the benefits of the people. So when the first ECOWAS team visited Mali, the first action was to visit the deposed president, Ibeka, and the military did not oppose to it. They went, they visited Ibeka, they discussed with him, and the request was to release him. And the military released the deposed president later on. Some analysts were thinking that, oh, he will be under house arrest. But later on, we realized that he was allowed to leave the country and travel to go abroad for medical help, medical support. Now, the military are still in ways of making sure that they get everyone on board, because the result of the transition will be the benefit for all the Malian people.
Yeah, Ms. Alex, yes, I know it's very difficult to have some coherence when you can hear yourself. But I mean, one other thing which I wanted to ask you, if I may, and I'm sure that it's very difficult to give your best out of this, because of the disruption. Um, uh, do you think that um, ECOWAS members will be a lot more happy to make it, make it very difficult for Mali, especially the military junta, just because they want to set an example that a military coup, is not an option in the region.
No, I think
Is that what you think they're doing?
no, I think
Go ahead, Mr. Alex. I'm sure that I do appreciate.
right, okay. I think they're trying to strike a balance, because even within the ECOWAS countries, some countries like Senegal, like Gambia, were opposed to sanctions against Mali. And some countries were going to have the military sanctions. So now what you're looking at is trying all both trying to find a solution which is suitable for the Malian people.
Yeah. Mr. Joseph, is it possible for us to log in, to log out and log in again? Is that something which is possible, or what do you think, Mr. Joseph? Because it's really disruptive, and I'm sure that I'm having messages from some of the audience. They can't really follow very well. What is your suggestion? Yes. Yeah, but I can hear you very well now, and without the echo. Yeah, but I think you've done something that has regulated the problem now, because I don't seem to
Yeah.
hear myself anymore. So maybe it's the volume that you've just reduced in one of your systems. So I think we can go ahead, Mr. Joseph. Yeah. So yes, because I can. It's fine now. I think from my side. Mr. Alex, are you still hearing the echo, or is that okay now?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so let me come to Mr. Sally now. Let's talk about the one issue that has come up, and that issue has been, we've heard it a lot from the military junta. They've been talking about, we have the backing of the population, and this is in direct reference to some of the protests that were launched, and I use the word launch because they were actually launched in the capital in Bamako prior to the coup. How do you define the population? I mean, Mali's got 19 million and plus people. If you have 1,000 people, for example, I'm sure those numbers are an exaggeration, or less than that, protesting that a sitting president should be removed from power. Is that democratic? Is that a representation? What is your take on this? Because this happens very often in Africa and elsewhere.
Yes, again, I mean, I have problems with nation of the people. Like a lot of people use the word or the expression the people to mean any group of people that are protesting against a system or against or want something out of the system. But the problem we've got is that it's very difficult to say that this is, to me, a lot of the time is like mob action. So if you have 7 million or 8 million registered voters in Mali, and out of them you've got 50,000 people or 100,000 people calling themselves the people of Mali, uh, there's a problem there, because it's possible to say the people have that you should go. Well, a large number of people have, but how is that the people? They might be representative of the people, so like 50,000 people. The problem with all this is that it seems to me like mob action always, because in that group of people, there are people whose objectives are not really democratic. And we see this in protests all over. Like if we have protests in the Black Lives Matter, some people come out just to burn down buildings when most of the time they are not actually part of the main protests or what the people protesting want. But there are opportunists who take advantage, get into any kind of protest because they have some grievances. So like in Africa, somebody might have grievances that, okay, this person locked up my dad, or I don't like this president because he did X. But then you will have the people who also have the genuine need. My worry with all these actions that are happening, whether it's in Burkina Faso or in Egypt, in Tunisia or in Mali, is that the definition of the people is always not very clear. And when the numbers are put forward by media, whether it's 100,000 or whether it's 50,000, that's a very insignificant number compared to the total number of registered voters within that country. But in any case, because the crowds are large, they end up bringing down this government. But then the negotiations we're seeing now actually tells you that, okay, not everybody was out there just for just for democratic purposes. They were out there for different agendas.
Does that mean that the people could only mean the registered voters in that sense?
They couldn't, but it is one kind of database or data kind of
it's one kind of measurement. Yeah,
is one kind of reliable measurement as to who
fair
votes,
representative of the people. Yeah,
like who votes and who votes in a government and who votes them out. Right. We can only measure from who is a registered voter.
But does it mean that? Does it mean from your explanation? Does it mean from your explanation that only the people who vote for a government can hold that government to account? Is it a matter of input output, or what you put in is what you get out?
No, many people can hold a government to account, including the people that did not vote it, or the people who are not registered to vote. They can, but that will have to be in processes of airing your views. So, like you protest, you have the right to protest. But we're talking about removing an elected president. So then the question becomes who elected him and who is removing him. So, but because people are very emotional in these matters, and because people are very partisan, they will support they will see their own kind of view as the correct view. Like, for example, okay, if you bring out 100,000 people and they march in the center of Lagos or in the center of Abuja, they should remove the president. Right. Because like, okay, 100,000 people have come out. But you are in a country of 200 million people, for example, and you are, and maybe 80 million registered voters. So what I'm saying is, what your question was, is this democratic?
Yes.
My view is that it is not democratic. It is a form of mob action.
Yeah.
And it is then covered with a cloth of democracy.
Okay, that's a good point.
By people who are happy with the outcome.
Yeah, before Mr. Joseph comes in, that's a good one. So now, from that perspective, Mr. Alex, taking from, because, Mr. Nana makes a very good point here, which I think is worth understanding or examining. So does that mean that once a military has been, has somehow, been misled, that the people want the president out, by a couple of hundreds of people who come to the streets, because the military has mentioned that it is the will of the people, and that has been taken directly from, of course, the number of people that came out to protest. Now, if you follow what Mr. Nana is saying, which for me makes a lot of sense, does it mean that the difficulty in ruling after a coup d'etat is because at that point in time, the real people that are representative of the government want to put their mouth in, and they are not necessarily in line with what whoever took over power thought was a representative of the people. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense, but how do you analyze that?
Yes, I think now what we are seeing is people have high expectations, especially the M5 RPF RFP movement.
Mm-hmm.
They think that because they have been on the streets for so long, then the government, the objective has been achieved, and they have to be leading the transitional government. And obviously, the military, obviously, they didn't want to be involved in politics, but they want to clear the environment to make sure that those who want to lead the country for the next 5 years for a mandate, they need to.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Alex. Yeah.
They need to organize themselves so that they come for election. If the people have voted for them, then they will be in power. They just want a transitional government now. Now, the transitional government doesn't need to be, as far as I can see, doesn't necessarily need to be a politician or a political leader. It can just be somebody who can be trusted by the people, by the Malian people. It can be a military, and he will be in charge just for the period of the transitional, for the 12-month or 18-month traditional period. All of those who want to lead the country for the next 5 years for a mandate, who want to seek a mandate to come to power, then they have to go and get themselves ready and come and be elected and then rule according to their own policies for the next 5 years. So it's just because the stake is so high, people have so high expectations, it's like the cake is ready, they just want to get the share. But this is not time to come for a share of power or a share of cake. There's a job to be done. The country is still under occupation of various international forces. The rebels are still controlling the north of the country, and education, businesses, everything was at standstill. Schools were closed. So any political party couldn't have removed the president and sort out the problem facing the country. They need to understand that there is a need for all of them to come together, put their ideas together, put the intelligence together for the next 12 months or 18 months. Now, the election will be organized, and then the right people or the people will be accepted as the best, who votes with the best program for the next 5 years, for the next mandate, will be in power. So this is my understanding, and as we see, and we are witnessing, it might take a couple of weeks, but they will have an agreement to have whether a military or a civilian leading the transitional period. Because bear in mind, since the change of the government, the military have been taking action to weaken or even defeat the rebels in the north, and that they have made significant gains. So they don't want to let the job unfinished and then get stuck in the next few months or in the next year or two. So Malian need, I mean, they are very intelligent people, and they need to understand that if the military can lead the transitional government, those who are from the M5 RFP parties, they can organize themselves, and after the transition period, and they will be voting into power. So
yeah. Yeah, so that's a very good point, Mr. Sally. I think Mr. Joseph has a question, but I'm going to come to him. Um, uh, if you were the president now, I'm not saying you are the president of Mali, but I mean, if you were given the position to be the transitional leader, or perhaps a prospective leader, would you be worried that if 100,000 people came out on the streets, the same military that enabled me to be in power will come and knock my door? Is that something that is that kind of a precedent that we are witnessing here?
Absolutely, this is a precedent, but also this is something that is a pattern. So we have seen this from various coup d'etats in Africa, and we have seen this recently in Zimbabwe. We have seen it in Sudan. We have seen it in different places where a military messiah comes to the fore, and with the backing of the people, and takes over, and then tries to be nice, and then become a very sort of oppressive dictator. We know that from history. There is evidence, there is research to that effect. So what is happening in Mali is nothing new. Now, this is not only a pattern, but it's also a template and a precedence. So if this has happened in Mali, other people are agitating that it should happen in their own country. We have heard people from Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, and other countries saying they wish that this kind of thing happen in their own country to remove their own dictator. But the problem we have in Africa is not that we have not had good people, good leaders. They have come on, they have done what they initially promised, and then they have changed and become authoritarian, and also erase all the sort of the achievements that have been made, democratic achievements that have been made up to that point. So what you are having in Mali is people taking over and then telling those very people that they said are the people that that they're executing the will of the people. Those very people are saying they want a civilian government, and the military is saying no, you are not, you don't have the kind of person that will lead this thing. A military person is the only person that can lead successfully the transition. But the people, and that is the problem with this model. If you say that you are executing the will of the people, and if the people make their first demand, and you say, and then you dismiss that demand on the basis of competence and who can do the job best, and then what you are saying is the very people that said, well, we should get Ibeka out of the way, and which you took the advantage to do, you are saying that they can't make that decision. And that is problematic with this model, because the people, when they met in the forum, these are the very people that who were in the streets, were demanding. They are the representatives. The M5 and the other groups were the people that actually protested. If you accept that they are the people, then if they say we want a civilian government, if you are not like IBK, then you have to accept. But already they said no, we can't accept that from the people. And this is why I have a problem with all these models. And I'm not being skeptical, but I think that I've seen these kind of situations in so many circumstances. When the general took over in Zimbabwe, on the day when people were celebrating, I made the comment, I posted a comment that people should be happy that they've got rid of Robert Mugabe. But the achievement can only be that you got rid of Robert Mugabe. The achievement cannot be a better Zimbabwe or democracy. the achievement was you want to get rid of this man, you got rid of this man. And today, it's not long after that, Zimbabwe today is not really better than when it was under Robert Mugabe. People are, as we speak, political activists are being locked up. They are being taken to court. Religious leaders are being persecuted, and we're back to like. And so this keeps happening in Africa. My problem with Africa is that we seem to think that if we do things in the same way, we'll get different results.
Okay, that's a good point. Mr. Joseph, did you want to ask a question or you wanted me to continue?
Very well. I have muted myself here. Right. Actually, you guys, you were talking about ECOWAS earlier on. I just want to read a comment from Catherine Free, and she says that it has been the interest of ECOWAS and the so-called aid providers to maintain Mali as a weak state. So probably, do you want to comment on that? In terms, I don't know really what she's trying to imply. Maybe, does she have a point?
I think, you've got to look at this from different perspectives. But, first of all, let me appreciate, the individual that posed this question. I think it's more important for us to understand the strategic position of Mali there, because Mali is a country that, again, as I mentioned earlier on, it's a landlocked state, and it's very strategic in the Liptako-Goma region, which is linking up with Burkina Faso, linking up with Niger Republic. But of course, it doesn't just end there, because Niger Republic links up very well with the Lake Chad Basin, which is, of course, Chad, Nigeria, and Cameroon. So you've got the link between Mali and the Lake Chad, but you've also got the link between Mali and the northern part of Africa, where you've got Libya with the high level of insecurity within that region. So Mali is a very strategic position. Of course, I've not talked about Senegal, which is again in the western part of Africa. So I do believe that Mali plays a very strategic role. Very, very rich in terms of mineral resources, gold. I remember one of the richest person in the world, that has always been mentioned, Mansa Musa. That reminds me of the level of resources that Mali has. ECOWAS, of course, from an economic point of view, really needs Mali to be a bulwark in the region, because the only way that the ECOWAS can sustain itself is to ensure that member states that occupy very strategic positions, from a geographical point, essentially should be stable. And so I would suggest, in my opinion, that Mali is a key country, and I would think that ECOWAS would want Mali to be, the strength of the region. Mr. Nana, do you think ECOWAS would want Mali to be weaker?
No, absolutely not. I think you made the point very clearly. Economically, ECOWAS needs all its members. And from a strategic point of view, Mali is very important, especially on the fight against terrorism. And with terrorism, you cannot have economic development. So in order to succeed, the Tuareg rebellion and also the conflict between farmers and hunters and herders in central Mali is a huge security risk for West Africa, including ECOWAS and even other countries that are not ECOWAS members. This has an impact because the Saharan Desert and all the Lake Chad Basin and all this area, there are lots of areas that are ungoverned spaces within those areas. And having an unstable Mali is of no interest to ECOWAS at all. So I think ECOWAS need a stable Mali, but ECOWAS is suffering from lack of efficiency that regional African bodies, including the African Union, suffer from. So African solutions for African problems haven't been put into practice. Part of the reason being that the people wanting to solve the problem have also credibility problem, like the presidents of certain countries, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea. I mean, these are the people that they don't have the legitimacy to speak, or the democratic credentials to speak freely within ECOWAS, and this is undermining ECOWAS efficiency. But whether ECOWAS as an organization are wanting a weak Mali or any weak member, I don't think that is the case.
Okay, you don't think that's the case? Mr. Alex, let me come to you.
David, before
Yes.
you go on,
Yes.
the same, again, you can answer this question quickly. Again, from Catherine, she says that the constant mention of Mali relying on international aid just begs the question, what have these aid providers done to strengthen Mali economically? So,
I mean, personally, I don't believe that countries may rely, but whether they need those aids is one thing. Each country may say that they want an aid. For example, Mali may say they want an aid, but I don't think Mali needs aid. I think what Mali needs, as security specialists have already mentioned, good governance. There is a lot of capacity building that the country needs in order for it to self-sustain. So, my advice would always be for Mali not to rely on that. But, I think Mr. Alex would also touch on that question. And also on the question of, do you think that from a, war is an opportunity point of view, do you think ECOWAS may see Mali as, an area that keeps them busy? Therefore, if there is conflict in Mali, ECOWAS is, would be seen, to straighten its muscles. Would you look at it from that point, Mr. Alex?
Well, thank you. I would like to tell our viewer that Mali is a very rich country. David mentioned earlier, up to right now, the richest person on earth, or in our history, human history, is from Mali, Mansa Musa. And the first university on earth was built in Mali, in Timbuktu, okay? So when you look at resource of the country, Mali has all the mineral resources, including uranium, gold, and even we're talking about gas and more. Actually, the French army based in Mali, the way they get to that place is by working with the rebels and get themselves seen as the savior, and then get their feet on the ground. And since they've been based in Mali, they're more occupied in mining than dealing with terrorism activities. Since they've been there, you've seen the latest President Macron. When in France a president is elected, the first visit is to go to Germany. Macron, once elected, chose to go to Mali, and he didn't land in Bamako. He landed where the French military is based, and there were a lot of speculation about why this move. So it shows that the resources of the country of Mali were being looted by those who came in as so-called savior or to help sort out the security issue. And they are there for the benefit of the resources of a country because strategically they want to control. You see, uranium is, Niger produces uranium which is controlled by France. And the uranium is also extended in Malian. So the French army based there is a strategic position to control the resources, not only in Niger, but also in Mali. Now, coming back to what ECOWAS wants, I think we need, all parties need to work to ensure that Malian become a stable country, and stability will have a benefit to not only Malian people, because they'll be able to run their businesses, things can move on, security will be okay, but also it will benefit the whole of the union of the ECOWAS countries. So actually, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, and ECOWAS needs to step up, but need to listen to Malian people and ensuring that the security concern, because for the last 7 years, since 2013, these Tuaregs have been, and these rebels have been, it has been a major issue. And today, the military are trying, and there will be probably, if a given opportunity, they'll be able to sort out this security issue, because the international forces based there are those probably behind arms and equipment, logistics to the rebels who are disturbing the country. Now, ECOWAS doesn't want.
Okay, gentlemen, we need to round up because we are running out of time.
Yes.
So basically, David is going to give Nana and Alex just 1 minute actually to summarize what is the situation. I know we've had a whole lot of challenges with technology, but I'm sure you're going to be back next Thursday, aren't you guys?
Yes, of course. Yeah, and you're very correct. Let's round up. And thank you for that, Mr. Alex. You know, you've made that very clear. And let me take from that and give Mr. Nana just a minute to round up. Now, Mr. Alex has mentioned very clearly that since 2012, after the collapse of the, even before the collapse of the Libyan regime under Muammar Gaddafi, Mali has experienced, the French intervention using Operation Barkhane. You've also got the intervention from MINUSMA, which is the UN mission in Mali. You also have a recent European Union coalition known as Operation Takuba. Then you've got the J5 Sahel. All these external, interventions, they still couldn't prevent a military coup from happening in Mali. But also, they couldn't prevent, the country from sliding into economic chaos. Now, does that mean that the solution lies with ECOWAS and the African Union, or are they as bad as the other entities? What's your thought now on that? Just a quick 1 minute.
Yes, I think that to round up, I would say that again, we're seeing a template or a pattern whereby there has been international interventions and where things haven't improved. So you mentioned the UN missions. There are 13 UN missions, peace missions in Africa at the moment. The biggest one being in the DRC since 2011, and people are being killed in DRC as we speak in the presence of the UN mission. There are over 100 armed rebel groups in Eastern DRC in the presence of the UN. We know also in Libya, we know in South Sudan, we know in Central African Republic, in Mali, and we know where these international peace missions are, called different names. and also the unilateral peace missions, whether it's of Americans or of European countries. That hasn't solved the problem because we have wars in nearly 48 of the 54 African countries at the moment. So that hasn't solved the problem. Can ECOWAS or the African Union be the answer? No, they can't, because they are not effective, they are not democratic, and they are also run by a number of dictators themselves. So it is very difficult for them to ascertain their independence from their funders and the West. So what is the solution? I think that the solution for Africa has to come from Africans. First of all, we have to be united. And therefore, Africans have to go back to the ideals of Kwame Nkrumah and to the ideals of the founding fathers of Africa following the messy colonial partition. So I think that we have to we have to put behind us tribal, religious, and other neo-colonial interests, and then we come together and solve our problems.
Thank you.
At the moment, I'm afraid we are not there yet.
Okay, we're not there yet, but Mr. Alex, do you think that the African Union, in spite of its challenges, should be the body that, for example, all these Operation Barkhane, Operation, Takuba, Operation XYZ, MINUSMA, shouldn't they be funding the African Union instead of, and then empowering the African Union to do the job with Mr. Nana is saying? And do you think that's the way forward?
Definitely, Africans need to change the way they see themselves and the way they see the world. We have to take responsibilities of things happening in our countries. The union need to be independent, and being independent meaning that African Union need to fund itself 100%. And it's because now this is not happening. That's why the external forces still have influence on what is happening in Africa. So if Africa or the African Union is funded by African states, secondly, we can have an African force to be able to police the whole African continent. We will be able to have African diplomacy led by the African Union, so that on the world stage, Africa has just one voice.
Perfect.
So that you can be much more powerful, so that Africa can stand as not only small countries, but one entity, one country one nation made of 54 countries.
Yeah.
And will be respected. And we need to take these steps to ensure that we can produce anything we need by ourselves, whether it's in health, whether it's in education, whether it's transport, whether it's everything. And that's, for me, that should be the way forward. An African, a united Africa, or the United States of Africa, which need to be working as a whole, as a unit, and we will be stronger. If you look at the world today, look at China. Why China is strong? Because they are a big country. Look at the USA. Why are they strong? Because they are an entity. Look at the European Union, the former union, and they are stronger. It's only Africa which is scattered, and this is the colonial policy which now we need to put an end to, so that Africa become respected worldwide.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex Akoman, certified anti-terrorism specialist. I really want to appreciate you, Mr. Sali Nana. Of course, thank you for your time. You've been, both of you have been really great and very patient with the technological issues that we face. But a lot more, we want to appreciate the audience for their, unrelenting efforts and being very patient on this program. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. I think the key here, as we've said, is Africa needs to take its problems into its own hands. But how do they do that? That will be the topic of discussion that we may have here next week, to give ideas as to how this can be done. and then we can move forward. We want to thank our viewers. Thanks to Africans in London TV for hosting this program. We wish to be here again next week. Mr. Joseph, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Yes, and also I want to thank you for being patient. You know, as I said earlier, we don't have control with the technology, but as we go along, we are learning. So, Thursday, I'm sure we are going to have another captivating discussion. You know, these guys, they know their stuff, but I'm always saying that if the conversation actually carries on Facebook, YouTube, or anywhere else. And probably you need also to send some suggestions, what you would like to hear from our experts. I must say again, thank you for being patient and being with us, but we are not going actually just to sleep. I know we have, for half an hour, the guys, they were really struggling to hear themselves, and I am not an IT person, but slowly we will get there. That is another role now I'll have to get to add on to my many hats that I wear. So I believe you've heard what you've gotten something from what they have discussed, but you have to remember this situation we are discussing here tonight, it's not only in Mali. Only that other countries are just dormant. You don't hear about them. Actually, you have got about 36 countries in Africa which are suffering the same fate as Mali is in. So on that note, I must say until Thursday. See you then. And
Thank you.
I am looking.
Thank you.
Yes, I am looking for my outro. Here we go.